Cool.
Okay. Well, my name is Chris Harvey. I'm a retired environmental manager. I work for some of the big protein companies, Cargill and Tyson, and basically cleaned up their messes. Wastewater, air scrubbing, water. They would get in trouble and call me in to fix it. And unfortunately, I never ran out of work until I retired. But during that and doing all that problem solving, I observed a lot of different things. And the biggest thing was how to grow the most food in the least amount of space with the least amount of energy and the least amount of water. And over the last 10 years, I've developed the nutrition oasis. Basically, the concept is to have the tank where you grow the fish inside the greenhouse, and the waste from the fish circulates up through tubes in the ceilings, and in the back there's a stair step of things there, and that's how you fertilize the food, or the plants with the fish. Now the system is kind of intricate. I see a lot of hydroponics and stuff, and everybody's growing lettuce and kale and whatever, but I wanted to develop a system where you could grow melons and root crops and things like that. So in this system here, the water basically comes out of the tank and circulates through the top tube around the tops of the greenhouse, and you can look at this later, but that's for hanging plants like tomatoes and green beans and things. And then the ones that are stair step, that's for like peppers and squash and things like that. But this is for radishes and carrots and things like that. And so the water will actually go through here and drop back into the tank, and then it circulates in a circle. There's a media bed here that collects bacteria that will convert the ammonia in the fish waste to nitrates that the plants can take up. And that's usually why a lot of these systems fail, is because they get overwhelmed with ammonia. This will have a wireless pH probe, temperature probe, conductivity probe, and dissolved solids probes. And that basically will tell you how much waste is in the water, if the plants need more. And this whole project, probably gonna, once I build the full scale model, will take a couple of years to gather all the data to really run it. Because you're doing a lot of work in a very concentrated area. And similar to what we did in wastewater. Basically, wastewater is just a mud puddle where they've concentrated all the bacteria to where when you have a lot of food coming in, you have enough bacteria to eat it all. And that basically in this system here, we want to manage the fish waste with the amount of, of the fish waste, how much waste is in the water, so you can control that. And then it has algae tubes in the top for excess fish waste, and it also will have a composter in it, and you'll pull vacuum off the composter. Because people think composting is eco-friendly, but it gives off a lot of carbon dioxide and hydrogen sulfides and things like that. Well then, I built one of these half scale of this and did the algae experiment in it, and it grew algae like crazy. Worked really, really, really well. And then the algae drops back into the fish tank, and you feed the fish algae. And we're also going to grow worms in this media bed, because this media bed, we have a whole management system for this. And a lot of this you'll all see on my YouTube channel, The Meadow 2019. Basically, I give updates usually at least every week, but sometimes twice a week. And then on Patreon, we're trying to get supporters and things to help us get all the funding we need to build the full-scale model. I bought 4 acres just south of Corvallis, and it's all brush, and it's a floodplain that nobody wanted next to a wastewater plant. But I love it because I have 500 feet of creek. The floodplain is so fertile. Once I grind all the brush up, everybody tells me to burn it, but I won't burn it. Because you want to grind it up and put it back into the soil, and I'll be able to grow pretty much anything there. But this, I want this basically for year-round food. So it'll have a cooling system. The concept of the tank too, inside the greenhouses, I saw a lot of guys, especially up in Minnesota in that area, they'll put 55-gallon drums in the back of their greenhouse full of water, and during the night, as those freeze, they release heat into the greenhouse. Well, I said, well, and then I saw aquaponics system where they have the tank in one barn and the greenhouse in another. I said, well, why can't you just put all that in one place to concentrate that heat and to concentrate the area that you're growing the food in? And so It'll be pretty complicated once it's done, but I want to set it all up basically on an app. So as you study it, it will say, in 2 weeks you need to plant carrots, or you should have harvested squash last week, you know. And it'll have GoPro, I have lots of GoPro cameras, but it'll have GoPro cameras in it. And once you gather all the data and information, I would like to send them out and find funding to put them in high schools. Because these would be fabulous for a junior or senior in high school to really take hold of how food works and how all this integration, you're basically almost completing the carbon cycle and the nitrogen cycle, and that's what we did in wastewater in this one vessel, or this one building. So, but anyways, you guys just watch, if you want to watch me further develop it, it will be on the YouTube channel. And of course, Kate, you all know Kate, she knows how to get in touch with me or any questions that you might have about it. But
what's your YouTube channel?
The Meadow 2019.
The Meadow 2019.
The Metal?
Meadow.
The
Meadow.
Meadow.
As in like
M-E-A-D-O-W. The Meadow.
2019.
Because that's basically what it reminded me is when I was a kid, when I bought this property, we had a meadow exactly the same size. So that's kind of what I named it after.
So what is the footprint of one of the full-scale units?
This full scale is 12 by 24.
Oh, feet?
Yeah.
Okay.
The reason it's that size to make the bed 7 feet wide, so you can reach.
Ah.
And it's 2.5 feet on each side and 2.5 feet on the end, and then 7 feet on here. But this bed height here will be about 45 inches.
And how many fish are in that tank?
I'm hoping it'll hold 1,000. The full scale model has a 2,200 gallon tank.
Okay.
So it should hold almost 1,000 fish.
Is there any issues with oxygenation for that water?
Well, that's a good point. It will have when you convert ammonia to nitrogen, it takes 4.2 parts of air and 7.2 parts of alkalinity to do the conversion.
Okay.
So I'll have to add air. So there'll be an aeration system in here. But also when you make algae, one of the big benefits of algae, I don't know if you've ever seen that,
Yeah.
a bloom, is
Yeah.
you put a lot of oxygen back in the water when you make algae. I've seen in the springtime, old lagoons and stuff will roll and turn green. And we had, when I was in Canada, they did a dissolved oxygen meter, and it was 19%. It was
Oh,
atmospheric.
wow. Oh, wow.
Because the algae had thrown that much oxygen back
Oh, that's
in.
crazy.
So you'll get some oxygen from the algae as you feed that back to the fish too. But that's one of my biggest concerns is, and that's why I want all the automation in the data collection, because of the pH, because of, you know, all the toxicity, that many fish. As I build it and start it up, I'll buy 100 fish, and then I'll probably buy 100 every month.
Do you have
and then
breeds?
just keep tracking it and just to see what it'll do. So
Okay. Yeah. And sorry. Do you mind if I ask very technical
go,
questions?
yeah.
Do you have breeds selected for?
Tilapia.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
they're the best warm water, because really to make this functional, it needs to run probably 65 to 80 degrees.
Yeah.
And that's where they thrive at.
Okay. Cool.
And so, yeah, and they reproduce very easily and things like that, so they're pretty easy fish to manage. I have a lot of neat little things, like I'm gonna put little weirs in here with different size holes to separate the fish. So the big ones don't eat the little ones. And there's lots of little, as you watch me on the YouTube channel, you'll see all the little nuances and the things that I've thought of that I want to stick in this thing.
Yeah. This is
In
remarkable.
The full scale model too, eventually. So, but
What kind of power does this require to like?
it's not going to require. I'm hoping that it's completely self-sustaining. That all you
Like
basically,
The pumps? For
the pumps and everything, the slanted roof, I want to try to harness that heat energy in running in Stirling engines. But there's also a company in Fremont, California that makes a film that goes over this polycarbonate that's solar. And so and then I would put a row of batteries in the backside of the greenhouse and collect all the energy I can. The ultimate dream on this thing is to be able to set it anywhere on Earth and grow food.
Nice.
That's the ultimate dream.
So
I don't know if
that's-
I'll ever achieve that, but I call it the nutrition oasis because to me it's the answer to food deserts. There's so many places in the
Yeah.
world where there just isn't good food.
Right.
And if you could have these little 12 by 24 foot systems,
Yeah.
and this basically is all tongue and grooved and just pops together like an erector set. Once it's all cut out, it only takes a day to put it up, but it takes a couple days to cut it all out in the end of a finger. Well, that's all right. Kate already chewed me out for that. So.
Do you run into any heat issues
Well, that's the thing about that, it's gonna have a cooling wall in it,
Okay.
all the way down through, and basically it'll set right up above here. You'll circulate the fresh makeup water. You don't want to cool with that because it'll stink.
Sure, yeah.
But all the water coming in will be RO treated.
Okay.
So you can control the minerals and you can control the alkalinity and everything else. But that will be used in intensive heat. But I'm also hoping that if we put a tube on the end here and these channels go up, I'm hoping if I put water down here and we make water vapor into here to trap, anytime that you change water from a liquid to a vapor, you have to let go of the cold.
Sure.
And I'm hoping as it goes across here, the cold will fall down in the greenhouse. So, but there's tons of little things that I want to play with just to see what I can make this thing do. But and that's what we're looking for is people to support us.
Yeah.
And watch me play with this thing or come down. Anybody's welcome to come down. I bought that little place just south of Corvallis.
This is a remarkable idea. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Amazing.
We need to feed people. There's too many kids going to sleep hungry at night.
So here.
Is it the meadow? Okay, speaking of which, so how do you worry about the coolness for the fish, like them being too hot in there? Is there an issue with that at all?
With the temperature of the fish, that's one of the reasons for the cooling wall dropping down into the bed. As that water cools, it will go back into the fish. You'll have to, and that's kind of what we did in wastewater too. You'll find all those little balances, like how hot can I let it go before I have to turn on the cooling? Or how cold do I let it go before I put the radiant? Because see, there's radiant underneath the tank, and that heats the tank from the bottom up. But no, I just want to keep plugging in ideas and playing with it. And it's kind of the Patreon idea is not so much for the money as collaboration. I can get people to watch what I'm doing and say, hey, why don't you try this? Because one of the things I learned fixing wastewater plants and going into places where you're hated is there's no bad ideas. If you let everybody participate, and then you get a lot more done. And then leave your ego at the door and just listen to everybody. I used to let guys do stuff that I didn't know would work. But as long as it didn't cost a lot of money or they didn't get hurt, I would let them do it. And that's the kind of way I want to do with this. I want people to give me ideas. If they're really silly, sometimes the really silly ones work good. This is silly, So.
What's the growing medium that you're going to use?
Probably in this, a volcanic rock in this.
What about in the tubes on the inside?
Nothing.
Just air?
Yeah, the tubes won't be clear in the full-scale model. They'll be 6-inch white, and because you don't want the light to get on the roots. And the way the roots will always be bathed, they'll always have about a ½ inch of water to keep them moist. And the system will automatically cycle every 2 or 3 hours. It'll kick on, it'll pump to that tube all the way around to here, and then drop through there into here, and go across, and then go back into the fish tank. And the way that it flows, it pushes against this wall, and that wall will have a solids collection tube. I built a lot of clarifiers like this. And so all of your solid waste will get sucked up and thrown into the compost. So the tank is self-cleaning. The compost are designed a way to get the fish, the worms into the fish without touching the worms. So a couple different ways. But,
Nice.
Cool.
so,
Very cool.
there's lots of stuff. So watch us and watch the YouTube or however you can get in contact with us. And we have a website too, the Meadow 2019. So
What's the estimated cost of the first production model?
$18,000 to
That's
put.
it?
Well,
Everything?
that's structure and glass and the rock and everything. Yeah,
That's amazing.
I built one in 2013 before I had my first heart attack. That's why I don't have it with me anymore. My son has it, and he didn't do anything with it. But I think I built that one for 12, and that was back then. So, in the updated cost, and this one version's a little. This one actually is easier to build with that slope roof.
So the fish and the batteries and
Yeah.
like the film?
Well, that's not counting the film. That's basically structured glass and all of the piping
Okay.
and the electrical and everything. But anything exotic like film or anything like that might be above and beyond that. But that's what I had for cost was $18,000 to put one together, so.
And that's for like an individual unit, not for like a scale, like,
That's
production?
12 by 24.
Right, but I mean, like, if you were building like multiple at the same time, do you feel like you could get economies of scale out of that? Or-
Oh, God, I could probably build them for 4,000 or 5,000.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Because
That's-
I contacted this company in Richmond, California that developed the first process to sort plastic.
Oh, sure.
So I want all of these rails and all of this stuff to be made out of recycled plastic.
Yes.
And that would basically bring the cost down even more.
You know, you said you built the first one in 2013. Is that what you said? And then have you run into any durability issues, any like lifespan?
Well, no, that first one, it didn't run only about 6 months.
Okay.
And then I had a heart attack and my son came and helped me move and we took it down and I gave it to him and he was supposed to put it back up and then I moved.
Yeah.
You know how life goes.
I do.
But enough, and then I had another person in California that was curious, so I built a half to this scale.
Okay.
This is a 1/6 scale that built a 1/12 scale, and I actually made it run. It made algae and it made all kinds of barley grass and stuff.
Wow.
But
wow.
it'll run. It runs actually pretty good.
That's inspired. That's really wonderful.
Whoever said something about the heat, I'm more worried about the heat than I am the cold.
Yeah.
Because although this does open, and while you could put an automated thing in Bennett, I don't want that heat to get away. I want to capture it. Does anybody know what a Stirling engine is? It's the oldest form of mechanical power production ever. It was designed in 1803 by a man named Stirling in Britain to pump water out of coal mines. All it does is you need a heat chamber on the top and a cold chamber on the bottom. And it will actually just move by itself. And there's a little bypass. And so any heat that you could have heat as low as 100 degrees or as much as 2,000 degrees in a Stirling engine will work.
Wow.
They have them on parabolic systems out in the big solar farms that point all of the parabolic to this little solar Stirling engine that just they run about 10,000 RPM.
Something about that. Yeah, the
So
concentrated
it's
solar.
a very simple engine.
Yeah.
And so I've designed a couple different ones that I want to try to build and adapt to work with this.
Wonderful.
But anyways,
are you looking to commercialize this, or is this?
I'm not a commercializing type person. I just want to help feed people, and I want to basically just give it. Everything will be patented, but they'll all be open patents.
Cool.
So I don't want anybody to make money off this. I want people. I want it to feed people.
Totally.
So
And do you have any sense of how many people that would feed?
my goal is 10.
Yeah.
If you could set a couple million of these up, you fix a lot of people's lives. So, and they're the right size, like to set in a parking space in a school, or a parking or a vacant lot in a city, or whatever, and let younger people get into this. I would really like to see them get motivated.
Do you start with seeds or starts?
Seeds. It has a seed starting chamber. I haven't put it in here, but there's one built into this. The data that we collect will go into the app, and the app every day will tell you what needs to be done. You know, and that's the whole goal. I see so many greenhouses put up, and I see so many greenhouses basically put used within a year or two because people don't know how to manage them, or they don't know what they want to plant, or they don't know when the temperature's right. I want to build a system that tells you how to manage it. You know.
Are you talking to anybody about, like building an app for this yet, or?
I'm sorry?
Are you talking to anybody about building an app yet for this, or do you have any?
No, I just basically need to gather a whole lot of data first before we can build the algorithms that you would need to do it. And that will basically be the first, probably, I would think, even when you build, once it gets proven out, once you start it up, it's going to take about 6 months to get it up and running.
Yeah.
You got to develop the fish and the worms and all the right cultures and everything. So, kind of like a baby, it's just kind of.
Do you expect that you'd run into any issues with like the fish population getting too big for the size, or does the population naturally control itself with?
That's that's one of the biggest things to study is the amount of waste that it's going to have in it and how you're going to control that.
You'd have to eat them, right?
Eat them.
Yeah. Oh no, they'll be harvested. Yeah.
You'd have to have a party every now and then if they
Yeah,
have
that's
to.
Well, so that then follows up the question is like, is there a way to do this that's vegan? That might be a little bit of a stretch. Yeah.
I call it pecan. Pecan diet?
Vegan?
Yeah,
Vegan?
because it includes fish and fowl.
Oh.
That's my diet. I eat
Yeah.
fish and fowl and everything else.
Live your
is
best
vegan.
life, man. Yeah.
I don't believe in, even though I made my money in four-legged agriculture, I was raised on a dairy and I worked in beef plants.
Oh, sure.
I know what they've done to this earth, and
Yeah.
I don't believe in four-legged agriculture at all.
Yeah.
It's just not gonna work.
Yeah. It's very inefficient caloric transmission.
I used to drive from Guyman, Oklahoma to Cactus, Texas in that panhandle.
Oh, sure.
And if you get a morning that's below 30 degrees and it's sunny, orange clouds of methane coming out those feedlots and those hog pens.
Yeah. Sure.
Unbelievable.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I hope you don't mind me saying this, but with a vision like yours, you kind of have to take care of yourself. You know, just make sure you live forever.
Well, when I first,
No more heart attacks.
I believe this is purely fate. Everything that's happened